The way I'll be able to pull off, it's not possible on a bike like the H2. The torque is there, you don't have to run the throttle all the way up to 7,000-8,000 RPM. The power is there right from the word go, and it doesn't make so much horsepower that you have to worry about your rear sliding or losing traction, stuff like that. So I'm there at 80. That was easy. It didn't require me to think that how much space I have, where I have to brake, or whether I'll be over the speed limit in a jiffy, stuff like that. And that is what actually accumulates together, especially if you're in a city or in the mountains, and it just makes for a better ride. Boy, that was fun. I mean, I didn't expect the R7 to be so good. In fact, I'm wondering if all the manufacturers start going this way, they start to make motorcycles which are more usable in the real world, yet they look like this. I think we are going back to the basics. The whole world is going back to the basics. The engineers of the bikes, they have proved themselves. Yeah, alright, we can create this bike, we can pump out 250 horsepower, something like that, out of an inline 4 compact engine. We can make all sort of electronics wizardry, and we can make the bike go from 0 to 100 in this, and we can make the bike go to 0 to 400 plus, like the S2R. So all that has been proven now. Okay, now there's almost nothing left to prove, especially in an era where we are now moving towards electric bikes, electric mobility. Plus, none of the handling characteristics, they are compromised. I mean, it's like basically you are almost riding the R1 or the R6 here, except for the power and the electronics. And now we've got these beautiful pieces of engineering. We have proved ourselves, like we've got the highest grades in the class, stuff like that. Now we've got nothing to prove, and although we have passed out with those high grades, does it translate into success in the real world? Actually, for the manufacturers, no, because they couldn't sell those many bikes as they would have wanted. With so much research, so much engineering, so much effort going into making one motorcycle and refining that motorcycle iteration after iteration into something better. For example, look at the R1 or even the ZX-10R and all those bikes. How much are we actually selling? That is the question that was asked in probably the board meeting at Yamaha at least. And they say that we are not selling those many R6 bikes as we would have liked. It's such a wonderful motorcycle, it's a world championship winning motorcycle, stuff like that, and yet we are not selling the bike. Why? Because people want, primary thing is economics. Now the power lies in the hands, pun intended, of the youth, of young people around the world, who are content creators, who are YouTubers. Now that is another segment, topic I want to talk about. But the people who have started working and who are like around 23, 24, who are getting a decent salary, who can afford the R7 but not the R6. And this R7 is a great motorcycle.
just because of the amount of bikes it can sell. And the if if you talk about the influence a motorcycle can have on a person, then this bike is will be one of the greatest influencers in the world of motorcycles, because on this motorcycle you can learn the tricks of the trade of racing.
But everyone wants a nice looking motorcycle. Everyone wants something that, that would thrill them. I mean, nobody wants a boring motorcycle, of course. So this Yamaha thought that let us try and bank on the lineage of the R6 to create that excitement, that shock. When the world sees the R7, if we do not divulge the details, they will think it is the older, the initial R7, the home regulation version here, at least in Australia, the inline 4. But when they know that it's actually an inline twin, the CP2 as they call it, the Crossplane 2, which was there on the MT-07, and it only produces 72 horsepower, they're going to talk.
Alright, here we go, 0 to 100. Let's do this. Oh, really?
At least it will be a talking point. And they knew that, the people will be polarized, especially the older generation, the previous, not so older, like people like me, who were used to seeing bikes like the R6 scream at 15,000 RPM and 120, 130 horsepower. So what about people like me? See, people like me really don't matter, because we are a dwindling breed, we are few. And we've already been motorcycling since a long time, and probably we have bikes like I have the Ninja H2, which is an overkill, but I have made a video separately on that. You can find the link in the description. What do the youngsters want? What do people who actually have the money to buy bikes in loads they want? They want usable power. They want something which they can use on their license, on the learner's license, for example, and yet have enough power to take it on the track and have a machine which will, they can actually use in the city, ride to the cafe and stuff like that. So this is not about whether you should choose MT-07 or the Yamaha R7, because although they have the same engine, exactly same engine with these specs, but what Yamaha has done is they have made the whole structure around the bike, especially changes in the frame. They've made it more rigid with this aluminum member, giving it more rigidity. Here they have a sharper rake, and they have a shorter wheelbase. They have, of course, clip-ons, and of course then they have the fairing, and the whole bit is there. But the engine is left untouched, because if it ain't broken, why to fix it, kind of stuff. And they've actually made this bike even sleeker than the R3. In fact, they claim that this is the sleekest of all their R bikes, including the R6 and of course the R1, and hence this is more aerodynamic. So let's talk about the looks. I think the looks, although they're subjective, no one can say that this bike is not a looker. This bike is not beautiful. From the gills on the tank to how the main headlamp is inset like the M1 in MotoGP, and of course the whole tank, and basically it's a flat line. It's very well sculpted, and of course it borrows all the cues from the bigger sibling R1 and the R6, which is now track only motorcycle, at least here in Australia, because Yamaha thinks that somebody who's going to buy an R6 is going to be a track rider. So it doesn't have any bells and whistles necessarily, like for the street, for example, no lights, nothing. It's basically track ready. So coming back to the R7, here it looks absolutely beautiful. In fact, if you remove the decals, the R7 decals, it will be a little hard to tell whether this is the R1 or the earlier R6 or even the R3 or the R15, in fact, which I rode a couple of weeks ago in India with the same color scheme, the World GP 60th anniversary scheme here, which looks absolutely stunning. The fit and finish is right over there. In fact, the Tuning Force, the Yamaha logo on the tank is just not a sticker. It's basically it's a very well embossed logo which is inset in the tank. So I've got this beautiful machine, and it produces 72 horsepower, but more than the horsepower, it's about the torque, which is basically usable right from the word go. 3,500 RPM, it produces its maximum torque and continues essentially to do so.
Just effortless exiting through the corners because the torque is there, always there.
So it means that, while I was riding the city, it was much more usable and I didn't have to rev match or, worry about how will I get off the, red light without revving it too much, or I just have to worry about, breaking the speed limit, which is 40-50 kilometers an hour in the city, and getting a fine, stuff like that. So more than realization, more than philosophy, more than self-actualization, no matter how much I want to believe it, Yamaha was not driven by all of those. They were driven by the fact that they want to sell more bikes to more people who have actually got the money without making the bikes boring. And this was the answer. And Yamaha India is not very proactive in getting big motorcycles for some reason. Probably they think that smaller bikes, the bread winners, they are enough for them, but they should be getting bikes back like the R3 and of course the R7, and they should also have the R1. In fact, this is the irony that the R1 was the first bike, the big bike, super bike, to be launched in India officially in 2009. And those bikes, another irony is they were imported from Australia. So that batch. And some of you might know that ex-BHP and I, we got 2 R1s in Delhi officially from the dealership and 1 R15, and we went around India on that. It was called the Castrol Pawan Passion Hunt. So that was a road trip that we did 10,000 kilometers on 2 R1s and 1 R15 in 2009. I paid 11.5 lakhs for on-road for 1 R1. Compare that to today, there are no big bikes available from Yamaha. The R1 is not there if you want to buy off the showroom. And definitely, after riding the R7 and how much fun and usable it is, I don't know whether the R7 will make its way into India or not. Talking about the application of the R7, how the RC390 is such a great motorcycle, how the RR310 is a great motorcycle. And of course, BMW is going to launch their own track 300cc version of that in India. The R7 is the perfect bike, I think, for anyone who wants to go into track riding, who wants to learn not only the basics, but wants to progress into a more intermediate to advanced track rider.
I can imagine this being great on the track. Now another thing is that this also has slipper clutch, so it makes it better at turning hard corners as well. And the MT-07, if I'm not wrong, does not have a slipper clutch. So this is another track focused and spirited riding kind of focus change that Yamaha has brought into the R7.
Because if you are able to take corners on this at the speed it's capable of, then you have already arrived. You can actually graduate. If you are serious about racing, you can graduate to thousands. But even taking advantage of the bike's character, which is completely built for the track, and of course despite the fact that it's only 72 horsepower, which you will feel only on the straights when the other bikes pass you. So this is a perfect bike to actually get your head wrapped around racing. Now, other than that, if this comes to India, I think this will be costing around 14 lakhs. It's around 8,500 British pounds in Britain, which is around still quite a lot of money, but still it will be around 12-13 lakhs, I think, which is quite a lot. And I think they should start making this in India. At least the CKD completely knocked down assembly should happen in India, and they should start selling this in India for 8 to 9 lakhs. They should, and forget about marketing. If you put that at that price point, it will market itself, and the people who buy it, they are going to be the biggest marketers, like Kawasaki is doing in India. They're bringing in the bikes affordable, in an affordable range. For example, you can buy the ZX-10R in 15 lakhs in India, which is almost at par with any other place in the world. So that's intelligent marketing, and I don't know if Yamaha India is listening or they even care. But you got a beautiful bike in your hands that can actually change the way people think about big bikes. You don't need to get high horsepower machines to enjoy. You can't even use that power, on the road, and even on the track. For example, this is quite a handful.
So I'm in the hills right now, and I am thoroughly enjoying the R7. Oh my god, this can handle a go-karting circuit with ease. You don't have to worry about it having too much power. Also, this bike is perfect for a track like MMRT in Chennai and the Kari Speedway near Coimbatore, but it might be little less only because of the back straight at the Booth International Circuit, which is an F1 grade circuit in India. One thing which I am little surprised at is that the R7 here does not have the Bridgestones. I think B22s, which are much more stickier and better for such kind of riding. They are fitted. This bike is fitted with Dunlops, and if I recall correctly, that some markets it has the better Bridgestones. So that is that, and of course you can always change your rubber, but still. Wow.
And the only other competition which I can think of right now is the RS 660 from Aprilia, but that is like very expensive. 30% more expensive, I think, across the world in any market you go. Of course, it's got more electronics. It's got 25 odd bhp more, 27 bhp more, and it's got a sweeter soundtrack. Now, talking about the soundtrack, all inline twins, like this is a cross-planar CP2, so they actually don't sound exciting, but so don't expect too much from this in terms of sound. But when you actually are redlining it, which is around 10,000 RPM, which is not like 15,000 RPM for the R6, unfortunately, but let's not say unfortunately, because we have already honestly accepted that this is a more usable motorcycle. If you discount how the Aprilia looks a little bit more aggressive, then this is a much better motorcycle overall. So I think, that being said, let's ride a little bit more.
All right, so here are some roads which I like, I love, but I would not do such spirited kind of riding on the H2. But the R7 here actually feels so good and so controllable. I mean, this is a recommended speed limit of 35. I can probably take this like that on the H2 as well, but I will always be kind of cautious at the back of my mind that what if I ring the throttle just a little bit that too much. This bike does not have any traction control, rider modes, nothing except ABS, which is the bare minimum which you need to save your life on a 72 horsepower motorcycle. I feel I can go much more faster than what I'm going right now, but of course I don't want to get a ticket. We have a speed limit of 80 here, and I will like to stick to that.
This bike has got it all. Yamaha, please give it a shot. Get it to India, price it decently, not obnoxiously, and I think it will do very well. The R15, I was shocked when I looked at this motorcycle. The R15 actually looks like this. It's like amazing, what they managed to do with their motorcycles. If I had these kind of motorcycles when I was in my early 20s, then I would have literally gone mad trying to choose which bike to go for. But yeah, they should also probably launch Valentino Rossi R15 edition just to honor him. At least I will definitely get that, and of course this also should come in that edition. All right, so just be honest to yourself. Just get whatever you want, but have the experience before you buy a big bike or whatever bike you want. And last but not the least, what should you go for, the MT-07 or the R7? They are completely two different motorcycles despite having the same engine.
The seat height is a little bit more, I think, than the MT-07, and the whole weight bias is forward, of course, because of the fairing as well. The console here which you see, I can see a hint of color there.
If you want to go track riding, if you have a track nearby, or if you have mountains nearby that you actually go and ride into, then this bike is better suited. Even it's pretty good in the city as well. But if you are a little bit of a laid back urban kind of a commuter, or a person rider, or who also likes to do touring, but you don't have a track, you don't intend to go on a track, you can get on an MT-07. Personally, I would choose this one if I had to choose between the two. Number one, because we have the Buddh International Circuit in India, where I live, like Delhi. That's an F1 class great circuit. Now, before I end, there is another bike, the Ninja 650, which has been there since a long time, much before the R7 and the MT-07, and that's an inline twin. It's not a cross plane though. It's a beautiful bike. There's nothing wrong in it. It's around 75 horsepower, similar, I think, and the latest version is a better looking version than the previous ones, but it's still not a track focused motorcycle, and that is where I think even Kawasaki, Suzuki and all these manufacturers, they will be forced to think about. In fact, a lot of people have been saying that this is what the SV650S should have been, or should come out as an upgrade, and that would sell like hotcakes. So I wish, people in India could try this and they could understand how much fun is this. And I honestly, I was just riding the H2. I dropped off my H2 where I picked this bike up from. And I was just white knuckled on that bike, especially in the city, and it's like it's too much power.
This bike is a lot more fun than the H2, which is a lot more serious business, or even any leader class motorcycle. But actually, Why I'm saying S2 again and again, as you know, is that I have an S2 and I've taken it around Australia and through this exact road. So I know what difference is there in terms of this exact road by the same rider.
I think it's time to have fun right now. Let's go.
So what I'm going to do right now is shift back to my H2. All right, I am on the H2 now, and yes, trying to be in control. I am glad, looking at the way that things are going for the whole motorcycling industry. And the main thing is that manufacturers, they will push something, and the consumers, they will push something as well. And if they both push the same thing, it is going to be a good circle which will gain momentum and will be beneficial for everyone. Take care.